Hello, my name is Andrew Mestdagh, and I will be presenting to you my research and conclusions, contrasting bribes and kickbacks with expressions of personal gratitude. Specifically, I'll be responding to the question what are the ethical and separately the legal limitations or restrictions on accepting kickbacks, even if they are regarded as an expression of personal gratitude rather than a bribe, and how are these limitations and restrictions determined. Before I explain the fine ethical line between a bribe and a tip, I think it is important for you to understand the legal restrictions guiding our issue. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act establishes standards for the acceptability of payments made by U.S. multinational entities or their agent. The act was motivated when, during the period of 1960 to 1977, the SEC cited 527 companies for bribes and other dubious payments that were made to win foreign contracts. Congress amended the act in 1988 to clarify exactly when a payment is prohibited. In researching the issue, I thought it would be wise to interview a business professional in order to obtain a real-world perspective. I interviewed David Mestdagh, General Manager of the Aftermarket Division of Continental Corporation. This man spends 2 to 3 weeks a month out of the country, mostly in Germany and Mexico, working with suppliers and distributors along the supply chain. So I figured he'd have a pretty good perspective. David explained that because his company is a large multinational firm, each employee undergoes significant ethics training, with items such as bribery and kickbacks highlighted in their code of compliance. He further acknowledged that situations can arise where bribes and gifts fall into a gray area. In this case, his company has an ethics hotline that can be reached for legal and ethical guidance. One of the more thought-provoking research findings I discovered came from Magnus Thor Torfason, professor at Harvard Business School. The study related to the relationship between a tip and a bribe. The professor asked 51 participants in a national online poll about their impressions of the relationship between tipping and bribery. Just 5.9% of respondents said that they were probably positively related, whereas 78.4% thought they were probably not related. From the poll, it is clear that most people in Western societies draw a distinct line between tipping and bribery. Generally, tipping is considered to be a good-natured, pro-social thing, but bribery is considered to be antisocial and negative. Professor Torfason explains that in reality, there's a much finer line between tipping and bribery in today's corporate social exchanges. In a sense, they are both gifts intended to strengthen social bonds, and each is offered in conjunction with advantageous service. One could even argue that the only difference between the two acts is solely the timing of the gift. Tips typically follow the rendering of a service, where bribes generally precede it. This logic can easily be manipulated and cannot be used as a bright line test between a tip and a bribe. Say, for example, the tip paid is not so much to reward good prior service, but instead to encourage a good service in the future. This rationality brings the perception of a tip much closer to a bribe, which of course is also focused on a future service. After conducting extensive research and interviewing a business professional, I've come to a few conclusions on the topic. 1. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and its penalties have helped to deter companies and individuals from engaging in illegal activities such as bribes and kickbacks. simply due to the possible penalties, including fines of up to $1 million and imprisonment for up to 5 years. 2. The relationship between a bribe and an expression of personal gratitude, such as a tip, are much more closely aligned than most people would think. This presents problems because the issue is often more subjective than objective, making ethics extremely important to individuals and corporations. 3. Officers, managers, and employees are most often educated in ethics as a part of their on-the-job training. This information is distributed and reinforced in employee manuals. Many firms have even established ethics hotlines where employees can call and receive guidance if they are in a predicament on whether they are accepting a bribe or simply an expression of personal gratitude. I thank you for listening to my presentation.